Okay. Namaste, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us online for this special event. So, roughly 40 years ago, I committed myself to this crazy enterprise of basically a prayer to find ways to share the love that my guru put into the world. That was so revolutionary for us. And it's been a much longer journey than I thought it would be, but we're at this point where the first major installment is ready, and it's this book, HeartSourcing, and the whole practice, the whole yoga behind it, HeartSourcing yoga. In this day, there's like all these different yogas. Everybody is creating a yoga with their name on it. So what's the sense of doing one more? Well, this yoga is not just physical motions, physical stretches and asanas. It is a integral yoga for body, emotions, mind, ego, to make them transparent to the real self, to who we are. And the way that this all came to me over the last 40 years is spelled out in the book. The skills are listed and introduced. The different skills that I found to be most essential on this path. And then also the way I worked with this and the way I found proof for myself of its effectiveness is also in the book. And that happened when I went into the depth of what my pain was, which had to do with the Holocaust and the German inheritance of that. And went to Auschwitz and was able to spend a few days there using these skills of self-liberation. And I'm extremely pleased to say that this burden of shame and fear that had been with me all my life was completely dissolved in those days. And then the book ends on the up note of how to enter the heart itself and to cultivate there your already present complete capacity for unconditional love. So what I want to do today is I want to read a section out of a chapter entitled Earth School. Earth School is where we all are. And I lived in a place for a long time in the country where there were some high schools, and I had a psychotherapy practice there and got to know some of the students who, for some reason, didn't think they wanted to be in school for various reasons. Didn't even know they were really in school, that was something for them. They thought it was just forced on them. And needless to say, they didn't learn very much. So unfortunately, a lot of people are in Earth School in that way. They don't really know that it's a school. They think they're here to have pleasure and to avoid pain. And that turns into a merry-go-round. So Earth School, the way I talk about it, has 4 different grades or phases. And I'll just highlight the first one because we all know it. We don't have to hear a whole lot about it. And then we'll have a look at particularly stage 2 and 3, and snoop a little bit into stage 4. Phase 1, seduced by false freedom. Earth School begins when we fall out of the ordinary oneness, the original oneness of early childhood, and perceive ourselves as separate individuals in a world that is at times hostile or difficult. We become an ego in a bag of skin, as Alan Watts has said. Our higher potential lies dormant as we struggle with the challenges of survival and the search for pleasure. We have little or no awareness of love as the primal force in our lives. Instead, we battle with fear and all the difficult emotions that grow out of fear. As our primary tool for survival in this hostile world, we develop the thinking mind and get caught in the endless stream of thoughts, forgetting original wholeness and bliss of the heart. See, as very small children, we have all of this, but we're not really conscious of it. So we have to lose it and find it again in order to become fully conscious of it. The ideal of Western culture is the independent and rugged individualist, the self-made billionaire, the Marlboro man, the ego as the pinnacle of evolution. What a travesty. All around me, there was proof of Goethe's prophetic words, "None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free." And this really describes the majority of humanity, unfortunately. Thank God for my neurosis and pain, which would not let me stay trapped in the kind of ideal life my culture had offered. The sting of my unhappiness forced me to look further and deeper. And then we'll jump to phase 2. Phase 2 is the opening into spirit, the first taste of it included. Phase 2, the first heart opening. We enter the middle grades of Earth School, when the veil of materialism starts to lift. Perhaps it begins with a heart opening, a sudden moment of peace or joy that triggers a yearning for a more constant experience of unconditional love. This is not an emotional attachment that breeds dependency and fear of loss. It is a diamond-like love with power and clarity, a taste of the universal love that is already fully present in each of us, deep in the core of our hearts. Activating this great love makes life not only worthwhile, but also deeply delightful. This is the path of the heart. Phase 2 can also begin with a moment of insight that awakens a desire to clear the mind of confusion and stress. Clarity and inner peace can take us to transcendent heights where all suffering is dispelled. This is the path of the mind. The journey of heart and mind are not two different paths. Both lead to the same goal. They entwine, interact, and sustain each other to form a powerfully integrated spiritual practice that uses the full capacity of our will, knowledge, action, and feeling, which are the roots of the 4 great yogas. In the mind-dominated technological culture of today, constriction and dryness of heart is the most common disease. It manifests most strongly in the negative attitudes we have toward ourselves, toward others, and toward life itself. Being cut off from the great love in our hearts makes us incapable of realizing our real potential. And because it is so common, we take our alienation from the heart for granted. Becoming whole means to reconnect with the ever-flowing water of life from the heart and to engage with life fully with a very clear mind. The first opening of the heart is delightful. It's our honeymoon with the Spirit. Like children playing with exciting new toys, we sample different approaches to spiritual emancipation. Beginning to learn how to nurture ourselves, we window shop, experiment, and get a sense of what the spiritual landscape has to offer us. It is a time to enjoy and explore. It is not yet the time to go deep, to scrape away what doesn't serve us, to shed light into the shadow. It is a time to learn, not yet to unlearn. It is a stage of adding, not yet the stage of subtracting. What we cannot yet see at this stage is that, in so many ways, we are simply busy trying to escape to a more pleasant illusion. By and large, we are repeating the same patterns of acquisition we learned in the world of materialism. We collect exciting experiences. We decorate our jail cell with the paraphernalia of spirituality. We collect knowledge, books, crystals, and pyramids, prayer beads, incense, angel cards, tribes to belong to, a host of teachers and seminars. We are proud when we can twist our bodies into pretzels, adopt wise ways of talking, and construct a super cool spiritual ego. We have fallen into the trap of spiritual materialism. We try to see everything as good by ignoring that which is bad. We become light workers by avoiding the dark. We use spirituality to distract us from our reality. Our sense of self-importance grows rather than shrinks. Before we know how to save ourselves, we are the ones who will save the world. Even while we seek the truth, we avoid it. After a while, the drive to spiritual acquisition and grandiosity reveals itself as a trap. We can't shop, think, tantra party, or pretend our way into heaven. Then I write a little bit about heaven knows I tried. But let's jump on. There's a little bit in there about examining religious beliefs, which is sort of something that happens in that phase often. But let's jump to phase 3. Phase 3, or grade 3 in Earth School, is called working on the shadow, which we have been trying to avoid until then, like the plague. Sooner or later, we learn that our task is not to recapture the fleeting bliss states of our early awakening, nor to make our lives perfect according to our ego desires or someone else's venerable old rules, but to enter a new state of being. Rather than merely redecorating the jail cell of our conditioning, we start in earnest to disassemble the jail. This is done by releasing the emotional constrictions around the heart, by realizing a truth beyond our stressful beliefs, and by surrendering to the depth of the heart. This is the deep inner work of becoming free. As we outgrow the playground mentality of spiritual wonderland, the formerly hidden shadow elements of the psyche begin to demand our attention. No amount of feel-good spirituality will be able to keep them at bay. It may appear then that we have fallen from grace because darkness threatens to swallow us up. But in truth, it is that the honeymoon phase is simply giving way to a more mature relationship with spirit and with ourselves. Now, the darkness we face calls for the light, and the light is in us. What looks at first like failure or regression is actually progress. We are called by our own commitment to become serious in our practice. If we want to realize more than momentary states of rapture, If we want true enlightenment with its enduring freedom and bliss, our effort must not only reach up to the heights, but also down into the morass of darkness and pain. When I entered this stage of Earth School, I continued my efforts to get high in any way I could, which granted me short excursions out of my usual wallowing in angst and dejection. I enjoyed deep insights, occasional unearthly luminosity, and moments of brilliant love, but invariably I would crash again into my old misery. I couldn't get airborne for long, and so I was finally forced to attend to my problems. I realized that in order to know my divinity, I had to embrace my humanity. Definitely the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to fly away from my problems into a world filled with light, but weighed down by fear, anger, self-rejection, and shame, I could not find my wings. Begrudgingly, I had to admit that if I wanted to be sincere about loving God, I had to learn to love all of life. There were a lot of things I rejected, starting with not wanting to live in this world. I had cultivated rejection into a high art, one of my most delightful personality traits. How could you not love someone like me who wanted nothing more than to be left alone with feeling bitter and complaining about life? Eventually, I realized that I had to come to peace with the fact I was here. I had to welcome life with all its beauty, violence, and pain. Only by embracing my very ordinary, messy, smelly humanity could I gain stability in my spiritual self. In order to grow into the sky, I had to sink roots down into the ground, into the earth. Embracing what has been rejected and repressed for so long is no easy task. It takes either desperation or courage. I had both, especially despair. Dealing openly with my darkness and terror wasn't fun, but it was far better than living in unconscious slavery to repressed inner pain. Through the grace of my teachers and with the help of the skills I gradually picked up on the way, I experienced in a very concrete way a growing freedom from what had felt like a permanent curse of my life. So let's jump forward a little bit. There is a part in here called Identifying Our Lessons in Earth School. So we need to know we're in Earth School. That's really helpful. We need to sort of know that learning the stuff that is being offered to us by the curriculum of life is actually good for us to learn. Because why? Because it releases our suffering. And then we have to see what are our particular lessons. So identifying our lessons. The lessons of Earth School aren't head lessons that can be solved through better thinking. They are life lessons, challenges we must master with our entire being, and most of all, with the wisdom of the heart. What then are your particular lessons? You can find them by first identifying your most difficult and repetitive challenges. What are your patterns of pain? Do you repeatedly change partners, jobs, doctors, or diets only to find that the problems persist? Do you struggle with fear, anger, resentment, insecurities, relationship conflicts, jealousy, or stress around money? Are there certain things you have complained about for a long time? Are you in the grip of an addiction or of old grief? What are you most ashamed of? Identify the predominant thoughts, feelings, and behaviors you experience during difficult times. Write down a list of your primary problems. Then identify the opposite of each issue. This opposite is what you are destined to learn. For example, early in life, I suffered from a deep sense of insecurity covered up with arrogance. I could flip in a heartbeat from feeling like insignificant rubbish to pretending I was better than everyone else. Of course, the only one I was fooling was me. It was no surprise that my interactions with people didn't go well. Adults seemed harsh and aloof, the neighborhood bullies beat me up, and I developed few lasting friendships. I was a recluse, a loner, afraid to be around people. What were the lessons in all that? I can't tell you how well my insecurity served me. It inspired me to apprentice myself to the remarkable spiritual masters who offered me their hearts and their wisdom, and it made me a very committed student. It moved me to complete a long course of university study. The harshness and arrogance I experienced in people made me aware that these were qualities I had as well. It made me more humble and helped me develop a deep appreciation of kindness. Being a loner forced me to learn and later share the fundamental steps of how to genuinely love people. Out of that came wonderful, lifelong friends and the discovery that the source of the eternal love I was trying to find was in me and in everyone else. Over time, it led to a deep sense of security that allows me now to share with you the gifts I have received. If you are prone to anger and rage, you can learn to find consistent inner peace and genuine kindness. If you are your own worst critic, you are meant to develop self-acceptance and self-love. If you suffer from shame, you have signed up to relieve your own, to realize your own true worth, and to learn that there is nothing ever to be ashamed of. Come to think of it, all those lessons were mine too. Look for your primary patterns of pain and find their opposite. Suffering always shows us the way to its resolution. Our problems are the very path to their resolution. They are gifts in disguise. This understanding makes the cycles of remembering and forgetting, of happiness and pain, more manageable and transparent. We will go through them as long as we have more to learn, and the pain is still real, but we know that the greater purpose behind suffering is our freedom. And so we will not fight against our darkness as much, but instead shine the light of awareness into the shadow so it can dissolve. Phase 4, the exquisite state of enlightenment. Awakening is a magnificent process. Yes, it takes courage to shed light into the darkness, but the prize is the bliss of eternal life. The lessons of Earth School aren't easy. One day you can have a deeply enlightening experience, the next you may struggle with boredom or survival fears. One day you are captivated by new exciting abilities or spiritual insights. The next, it seems you have learned nothing at all. Periods of upheaval are followed by times of apparent stagnation. It can be quite confusing. However, as we love ourselves more and more and shine the light of awareness into our darkness, the source of our suffering diminishes and we increasingly taste freedom. Some people think that in order to become enlightened, you have to be always loving, never angry or sad, completely fearless, and so on. This is a common misconception that can make us feel even more self-critical, self-condemning, or hopeless. If a perfect personality were a precondition to awakening, let's be frank, none of us would stand a chance. Trying to be a spiritual Superman does not get anyone enlightened. Awakening is about seeing through our delusions and personality foibles and no longer being at their mercy. Awakening is a revelation, as though our head comes up from underwater, from the limited consciousness where we have lived for so long. And in awestruck wonder, we look around in this new dimension of enlightened awareness, this loving new way of being. And in this moment of awe and rapture, we may notice that it feels completely natural and effortless because we have awakened to our true nature. And we wonder, how could I ever have forgotten? Freedom arrives like a ray of sunshine that breaks through the clouds, and we see the world in a new light. Enlightenment is a state of oneness, of absolute simplicity. Once we awaken to it, it is the most obvious of all truths. It is at the same time extraordinary, sacred, and not special at all. It is the realization of what we are. We are not the body, mind, and emotions we call I, but pure awareness, timeless, unlimited, profoundly blissful. With that comes a fundamental shift of our point of view. Now we experience the world inside this boundless consciousness that we are. Where we previously identified with a small individual wave, now we realize that we are the cosmic ocean itself. This vastness is known as Brahman, the eternal, unchanging, infinite reality of the self. This is the end of fear. The experience of self-realization is our graduation from Earth School. With no confusion or obstacle left, we realize we are the manifestation of grace, wisdom, and love in this world. After many times of awakening and forgetting again, we have come to know that we are what we have been seeking. We are free. We have awakened to the self. We live in oneness with everything. Our heart radiates joy into the world. We are fully awake to this moment just as it is. This alone is true happiness, unshakable and unending. We are no longer identified with a separate and limited ego housed in a bag of skin. We are the boundless field of awareness in which all creation, including the body, arises and disappears. As it has been said, you are the endless sea in whom all the worlds like waves naturally rise and fall. Nothing can harm us. We remain in this world by choice, out of compassionate love for all beings. Only a transparent ego remains, to act for a while as a teacher in Earth School. So that's my way of describing where we're going. And this book is obviously not a book so much for the second phase of Earth School. This is a book for people who are coming out of the second phase into the third phase, who become committed and serious to some kind of a practice, and I give a number of examples of what can be done. And those who are simply sick and tired of being sick and tired in a big way. And the wonderful thing is that we do not have to find something that we don't have. We have to find what we are. So the work of this phase of cleansing and liberating ourselves is twofold. It's to find what we are, which is the going into the heart again and again and nurturing ourselves from this inner source and learning how to live through that. And then, of course, we're going to bump into all the obstacles that keep us out of the heart, that make us fall out of the heart, back into the head, into our thinking, our emotional patterns. So we need to have a way to get free of those. It's actually very, very simple. As a psychologist, formerly I used to work with a fat book of all the different diagnoses of what can go wrong with our human situation. But when you reduce it down to these essential codes, if you know how to get into your heart, if you know how to clear the mind of stressful thoughts, how to find stillness, and if you know how to free yourself of emotions, negative emotions, your behavior will follow, your physical being will blossom, and your life, your relationships will change. So it's actually very simple. It's a handful of essential skills, and if we have them, we will be served for the rest of our lives. And we can live this life in this so often so difficult world in a way that allows us to master anything that can come down the pike at us. So this is just a little taste of HeartSourcing, this book. And we're all here because we're involved in this fundraiser right now on Indiegogo. So I don't want to stop, because before asking you and thanking you for your contributions and asking you if you can help us some more, the real cost of putting out a book, I was told, and I couldn't believe it before I started on this adventure, I was told about $35,000, and it turns out to be true. So we put our goal very low, and we were advised to do that. We have already superseded our first goal of $8,000, but every donation, or I should say contribution, because you're getting books back and other things, it counts a great deal, and we're hoping to be able to get out of credit card debt and be able to really promote this book in a way that can help a lot of people. So by helping us, please understand you're helping a lot of people. And when I speak about a revolution of love, I'm not kidding. I am so incredibly aware of two things. One is this potential we have, each one of us, to truly learn to love. Not in this sort of romantic way that our culture speaks about love, but in a fundamentally solid way that can really change us and will change us and will change our relationships and touch other people through us. And then I look at the world. Can you tell me of anything that the world needs more? I can't see anything. We've tried politics, we've tried do-gooding, we've tried social work, and all those things can be good when they're done with a pure heart. But the real change that is possible in this world, in my view, can really only come when enough individuals begin to change the world from the inside out. And that means you. You can do it. You're the one who's called. You can change your world. There's absolutely no doubt in that. And if you change your world, you change the world. So by changing your world, by enlightening yourself in small or large ways, you do the most that you can do for humanity. So I invite you to that, and I invite you to absorb this into your own life, and then to share it with others in ways that are appropriate. And what's appropriate is never that we get into someone else's business, but that we emanate, that we hold in our hearts the love that we are born to experience. And when we do that, other people will feel attracted to that. And then when they ask us what enables us or what has changed us, that's why I'm pretty free about talking about what I used to be like, that pretty miserable wretch way back when. When they see how we have changed, and they ask us, they're open to receiving something, then of course we can be free to share with them the skills or the knowledge base or the open-heartedness that we have. But before that, it happens unconsciously. It happens as a process of osmosis. You know? It happens when you're standing in the checkout line at the supermarket where you used to dread and want to be someplace else, and you're having a wonderful time because you're in the presence of God. And then you get to the girl who's checking you out, and you have this smile for her which is totally effortless because you're just happy. And she catches it. And it changes the feeling of maybe this hour for her of standing there and doing the same thing over and over again. That's how you can touch people, and that's how the revolution of love can be propagated in very small ways, heart to heart. And your invitation is open to that. So thank you again for your support. Oh, let me not forget to ask, are there any questions? Anything you want to discuss?
You're going to guide us into a short meditation.
Oh, I'm requested for a meditation. Let's do that. Great idea.
There are 2 chairs here, Abraham, if you want to sit here.
I also want to let you know that, you want to come sit here? Now they're coming when the show is over.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's quite all right. Oh, well, if Coco is here, that's essential.
Coco. Coco teacher.
I also want you to know that I'm in the beginning stages of putting together a course which will give you a lot of the basics of heart sourcing and how to work with your heart and your budding freedom. So if you stay in touch with us, you will get the information when that's up and running. And that will be available for free for everyone who's involved in this campaign, for sure. So, just feel the weight of your body in your seat. Nothing else to do. This feeling of the weight of your body allows you to become present in the here and now. Notice your breath flowing in and out. And feel the moment in your body and mind and emotions. What's going on right now? Can you just soften into this present moment, into this sitting here, breathing, nothing else to do, no past to regret, no future to worry about, just this breath. And then bring your attention into the very core of the chest, the cave of the heart. This place in the center of the chest that is always completely free of any tension or stress. And you can picture this place as a brilliant point of light in the very core of you. Now the trick to know is that we may be imagining this point of light, and that's a good beginning. But this light is actually there, it is present. And with an open third eye view, you can see that. We carry this light in us, so it's not just something we make up. We simply try to imagine what is real in a deeper plane or higher plane than we usually perceive. And as you sit here, focusing on this point of light in the very core of the chest, breathing in and out of it, allow this point of light to take on some volume, become bigger, spread out, and become like a little sun in the center of your chest, radiating its light and warmth effortlessly into your body, your mind, your emotions, your whole being. And if you relax just a little bit more, you can actually feel this imagery. It becomes an actual sensation, a feeling, an experience of that radiant warmth emanating from the heart. And you can feel it in every cell of your body. And open yourself to it. Receive it like you receive the warmth of the sun at a most relaxed day on the beach. Let it touch every part of you, especially the parts that carry some suffering. Let this power of healing, this power of love, make you whole from inside out. And love the fact that you carry in you this love. That you are wise beyond measure. That you have in you the peace that passes all understanding. And you notice that you are right now both the giver of love in your heart and the receiver of love in the rest of your being. So when you are the giver and the receiver of love, then to open to love is absolutely safe. No one can hurt you here. You cannot be betrayed or abused or left alone. This is the absolutely dependable source of love. And you can open to it as deeply as you like. And you can simply put aside for now any thoughts of unworthiness or of not deserving or not being able to. And just go for it. Just let yourself fall into the heart deeper than ever before. Let yourself drink from that inner well, from this nectar of life. Let every cell of your being drink from it. And you may remember times when you felt this love in the presence of someone whom you were able to love, or in the peace of nature. And you notice that you now generated this from within yourself. It's wonderful to have people in our lives that we can love. And it's even more wonderful when we discover that we are love itself. That nothing can keep our hearts dry and brittle. That we have all the juice of God's love in us. And that a loving God, a loving universe would want nothing more than for you to know this love in you. So let yourself fall into the heart. Taste your own delicious core. And know that you can repeat this again and again, that your heart is always available for you. Nothing can take that heart, that essence of your being away from you, not even death itself. And step by step, you can learn to live out of that heart. You can come to realize that you are the love and the freedom and the peace you have been seeking. Okay, take a deep breath. The rest is homework. If you tasted this even this much, now it's a beginning. And there is infinitely more. So become addicted. This is the best addiction you can have. It's the one that can free you. Don't just become addicted, become dependent. Become utterly dependent on that core of your being, to feel that love, to taste it, to drink it, to nurture yourself. Every moment you think you remember to do it, it's available for you. And really nothing, of course we have old habits and conditioning, but if you want this freedom, if you want this love, if you want this liberation, nothing can keep you from it. Quite the opposite. Everything that happens will take you closer to it. So thank you for joining us online. Remember to visit our Indiegogo campaign site. The way you find it is go to indiegogo.com and then type in a search, HeartSourcing, one word, and it'll take you right to our campaign. Thank you very much. Namaste, God bless you. And that God blesses you from inside your own heart. Namaste.